everybody, and welcome to ABA Inside Track, the podcast that's like reading in your car, but safer. I'm your host, Robert Perry Cruz, and with me are my fabulous co-hosts.
Hey, Rob, it's Diana.
Hi, Rob, it's Jackie.
Hey, everybody, how you doing?
Good.
I'm a little sick, if you can't notice, so sorry, guys.
That's fun.
That's okay.
Yeah, I was sick last episode, and I had to edit it and listen to my voice, and every time I was like, who is that? Just a gross old smoker who broke onto our show.
Oh, it's me.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
That may be me this evening, but you know what? Don't worry, everyone. We'll survive.
You're going to pull through.
We just keep on trucking, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone at home, this is ABA Inside Track, which is a podcast where we discuss behavior analytic research around a single topic. This week is episode 23, and we're going to be talking about video modeling. What? You're making a face at me.
Sorry. I was thinking that next week we have grab bag.
Yeah.
Our next episode is grab bag. That's right.
I just remembered.
That's right, because we're going to do those every 12 episodes.
Everybody loves grab bag, especially us, and maybe no one else.
Grab bag, everybody loves grab bag.
But not this week. This week is video modeling. And we'll be talking about 2 video modeling articles this week. The first is Using Video Modeling to Teach Reciprocal Pretend Play to Children with Autism by MacDonald, Sacramone, Mansfield, Wiltz, and Ahearn from the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, 2009. And our second article, Using Video Modeling and Reinforcement to Teach Perspective-Taking Skills to Children with Autism by LeBlanc, Coates, Danishvar, Charlotte Christie, Morris, and Lancaster, also from the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, 2003. Jackie and Diana, before we get into the articles, is video modeling something that you regularly use or find helpful when you are working out in the field or working with students?
Yeah, I've certainly used video modeling a good bit in the past. Video modeling can be a really useful tool to teach a longer series of behavior, and it can be used to teach play skills, social skills, self-help skills, and vocational skills. And I have done that with almost all of those things.
Yeah, I've
What
used
about
it
you?
as well. I love video modeling, providing that the students that I'm working with can demonstrate generalized imitation.
Mm-hmm.
I found it not to be effective if they can't do that. So if they have that skill, then I'll definitely consider using video modeling as a gateway for prompts. We did a awesome video modeling for a young adult in public school on how to enter and exit a conversation, which was a really hard skill for him to grasp. And so we had a video of someone going in and like modeling what that would look like what are you guys talking about? Or, wow, that sounds cool. And then he actually did it, which was amazing.
That's
And
great.
his friends included him in the conversation because before he would just walk in and start talking about like a preferred video.
Yeah.
So it creeped people out. But once he learned the skill to enter a conversation appropriately, then he did. So it was awesome.
That's very cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we talked with Nick Vanslow about his behavioral skills training project with technology, would that be considered video modeling?
Not necessarily, no, because they were playing games.
Mm-hmm.
So they were playing games and not necessarily watching what they were supposed to do because it's supposed to be an imitative skill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the core components are you're watching a video of what you're supposed to do and then hopefully imitating it right after.
Right, and then you just do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a prompt. It's a model prompt, and it's no different than providing another type of in vivo prompt. The only difference there is that it's on video. So the advantage there is that it's going to be the same exact model each time. There shouldn't be variance between different actors. It's a usually pretty inexpensive way to produce a model. You don't have to have someone live there doing it for you. You can record it and just play the same model over. And it allows you to view the model as many times as you need to before imitating it.
Mm-hmm.
As Jackie mentioned, it is important to have imitative skills as well as attending skills in order to use video modeling. And ideally, you should be able to have delayed imitation as well.
Right. There's a good article about the prerequisites of video modeling. I think it's by Robinson and colleagues in 2009, 12?
I don't think it was that old. Yeah.
12? I think it's 2012.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So that's something good, too, that you can reference if you need to.
Yeah. We can throw that one up there.
Sure.
Yeah. One nice thing I like about video modeling, too, is that it minimizes distracting irrelevant features to the environment.
Yeah.
So if you're using an in vivo model, you never know what you're going to get, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Or what the student's attending to.
Right.
Or distracted by.
So the video modeling is nice. It helps minimizing that and helps combat that problem that we see with over-selectivity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the traditional preparation for video modeling, the only prompt is watching the video itself. There's no additional prompting provided afterwards to complete this sequence of activities, and no additional reinforcement either. So it's just what you get in the video is all you'll get. And amazingly, it works.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know a lot of the commercial video models available have, I think, very different format of the model than, say, I know I ever used back when I was working with preschoolers more consistently. And they do a lot more with the video, and then they break down the skill of like, look, here's Billy. He said XYZ to get the girl's attention. And they sort of do
okay.
a
Is this
little
like
kind
Model
of
Me
TA.
Kids? Or?
I don't think that's the brand that I've seen most recently, but yeah, Model Me Kids was very much like that. So they add in all these extra components. And I know I've seen that being useful for, say, other behavioral skills training in general.
Yeah.
It's very useful. But would you consider that video modeling or just behavioral skills training with a video to model from?
I'm sure it would depend on the additional components that you're presenting with the model. So if you're providing specific feedback and practice outside of the model, then it might be more behavioral skills training. Traditionally, a video model is just going to provide a simple script that's the same each time it's presented, and that's your end goal, is that you're getting exact reproduction of that script, which can be an advantage and a disadvantage, really depending on the type of skill that you're working on. Now, with social skills, it's not going to be the same every time. Every situation's not the same, and the way you need to respond to those situations can be rather nuanced. It sounds to me like those types of models would be working to prepare students more for responding in a variety of ways based on the exact situation versus teaching a really specific skill. So you're trying to teach sort of a larger response repertoire there.
Mm-hmm. Well, with a little intro discussion out of the way, let's get into the articles. So, Diana, why don't you start us off with using video modeling to teach reciprocal pretend play to children with autism?
Okay, I would love to do that, Rob. So there is a nice body of literature related to play skills using a video model, and this is one of the articles that contributes to that body of literature. What they were looking at specifically here was teaching reciprocal pretend play. So there's several studies out there that have been successful at teaching a student with autism or developmental disability to engage with a particular play set and learn a discrete set of actions and vocalizations following watching a video model. And that is a great skill to work on. What they were looking at here is a little bit more complex play. So they wanted to see how well they could use a video model to teach interactive play between a child with a diagnosis and a typically developing peer. So they had two pairs involved here. In each pair, there was one child with a diagnosis of autism and one typically developing peer. And the children ranged in age from 5 to 7. So Colin was a child on the spectrum. He was 7, and he was paired with Helen, who was 5. And then Alden also had diagnosis, and he was age 5, and he was paired with Jerry.
I love these names.
Who was also age 5. Yeah. I always wonder how people come up with the names that they do.
I hope that these are all like they're like pets' names.
Or their grandparents' names.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I like that.
Yeah, so they were each paired with a peer. So they were looking to teach some relatively long play sequences here with 3 different toys. And they, I think, went down the aisle at Toys R Us and picked probably what looked pretty good. They were 2 little people sets. One was an airport and one was a zoo. And then the third one was probably also, it might have been a Fisher-Price one as well, but it was a grill.
It's Play School.
Oh, sorry. Play School Grill.
The Play School Grill.
And he's got the little face on it.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you
I
don't
know
take his
him
batteries out, he's like, you're grilling my burgers.
Yeah. He's like, you're sizzling.
I had one of those in my office.
Damn, you're hot.
That's awesome.
Yowza.
Wait a minute, Play School. That's
What's
not
happening
okay.
here? That was just your model.
Yeah.
I had one of those.
What? No, you. Don't disparage me on the air.
No, I had one of those in my office at work, but it was broken. And if you turned it on, it would never, ever turn off. And it just kept talking to you. And you had to like rip the batteries out of the bottom of it to make it stop.
The wonderful thing about these little people that they were playing with is that they were the fat little people. So they actually weren't little. You know, in our age, you know, in the 80s, the little people were like made of wood.
They were cylinders.
Yeah, they were cylinders.
Easily swallowable
and they were
cylinders.
And they just had like the cylinder and then the ball head and then the plastic hair that definitely came off a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the lady, she was a curvy shape.
She was a little curvier, up at the top with her blue dress.
Yeah.
I had a cowboy. He was not. He was just cylinder. Perfect cylinder.
Yeah.
Most
probably
of them,
his hat made him less chokeable.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was pretty amazing. But now the little people, they all have names and they all are they're all like fat little people.
They thinned out a bit.
There's Eddie.
Yeah.
There's Michael. There's Sonia Lee. There's Sarah Lynn.
I think they retired those because our youngest just got a bunch of little people for his birthday back over the summer, and they were much thinner. I think they're responding to the childhood obesity epidemic by thinning out the little people. I don't know if they have the same names.
Yeah, they're not the same guys anymore. They look different.
Yeah.
It makes me sad.
I know. So if you made a video model, like in this study with all the fat little people, it's no good anymore.
Oh, yeah, they did thin out. They're significantly thinner.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's just so that you have to buy all new stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's why. That's what they do with toys all the time. Oh, you got one Darth Vader. But this Darth Vader has a cape.
Ooh.
He's got a purple lightsaber, maybe.
Nothing can ever replace the original little people for me.
No, me neither.
No.
I had the house.
I did too.
So would you say easy replication for this article?
Yeah.
Just use new little people airplane set?
That would be fine. The airplane set I'm
Ta-da.
looking up, and it's still there. Yep. And so is the Little People Farm.
What if you used the old fat little people video, but you gave the kids the same set with the new thin little people? It's my idea. It's copyright me. I said it online. Can't take it.
Copyright.
That might be interesting.
They used to do some of that reason. We're getting off track a little bit, but I know they used to be looking at research where you'd have the like potato head video, and the kids would build the carrot head, the less well known carrot head play set to see if it sort of just generalized. And
yeah,
I don't remember if it did or not. I just know that was a line of research that was being looked at.
I think it did.
Yeah.
But I don't have the data to back that statement
anyway,
up.
I'm going to replicate fat versus thin versus chokeable little people. It's going to be great. Look forward to that, everybody.
Look forward to you'll see us at your nearest garage sales looking for like the wooden little people.
At every garage sale.
You go to my mom's house and get the old little people.
She won't give them up.
We got the airport. We got the old saloon.
That saloon is nice.
That's a good saloon. We have a camper. I'm going to go make some video models this weekend. I don't know about you guys.
I think this is an interesting idea.
Yeehaw, I'm a cowboy.
Wow.
Hey there, partner. See, I used to just write these things like nobody's business.
Yeah, you'd probably be good at it.
You're supposed to watch children and then take what they play with and then sample that to write your video model. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, never did that. No one knew the difference because of my childlike whimsy with my play. I'm that good at playing with toys like a really child.
Yeah, you really are. It's impressive.
That's right. I've quit my job and all I do is play with toys like a child now.
Yep. He's the new Captain Kangaroo.
Okay. Back to the real life.
Okay, sorry.
Back on track.
So they used the airport, the zoo, and the grill. With each set, there were at least 7 different characters or objects with which to interact. And another thing that's really important to note that I want to make sure anyone out there who's making video models takes note of this is they took out the batteries for all of these toys. Okay? And the reason why do you guys think that you should take out the batteries?
Because like you said, those sounds are so annoying if you have to listen to them over and over again.
That's right. My ears start bleeding. No. I mean, yeah, but give me more. Tell me more.
Because if the toys made sounds, then the kids would not make sounds because they'd be listening to the stupid sounds the toys were making.
Or they'd make the sounds the toys were making.
Yeah.
So like, la 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 la, it's my Fisher-Price toy. Hi, everyone.
Damn, you're hot.
Yeah. You don't
over
want
and
that.
over.
Because they don't tend to play with the toys functionally if they make noise. They just push the button or do the repetitive action that makes the noise. Yeah. So it's a competing response that tends to inhibit more functional or complex pretend play with the toys. Some of the folks I work with, they'll make video models. It's so easy now. I know we're digressing, but It's so easy now. You just put them. You can use your tablet or your phone and like quickly have someone help you make a model, and then you have it, and it can be really individualized to the students' toys that they have right then and there, which is kind of nice.
In my day, you had to get a whole zoetrope machine and use that for your video models. It was real tough.
Right. Well,
So
this article
thousands of
they
pictures with our giant camera with the flash pan. Back in the Civil War era video modeling.
That's right. Yours are on daguerreotype.
Oh, that's good. Kodachrome.
Mama, don't take my Kodachrome.
Kinescope.
I don't know what that is, but anyway.
I don't know. I think it's the same thing.
Well, in this article, they did say that they had them on VHS tape. So, and that was, I mean, it's not even that long ago how quickly things have changed.
VHS.
But sometimes I'll run into situations where my teachers will say, we have this video model, but they're not making any progress on it because they just want to push the button that says, let's fly, over and over again. And I say, that's because you got to take the batteries out. Mm-hmm. It
you
really
stupid.
does. No,
That's what you
no, I'm like,
say.
oops, I didn't tell you to do that part, is what I usually say.
But you don't blame them. No, don't take the blame yourself. That's why you're a doctor, right?
No.
So you can blame your grad students.
No, it's always your fault.
Wow.
If you haven't learned anything, it's always your fault. It's never the student's fault.
But you don't have to tell them that.
I do.
Oh, that's nice of you.
We have to set up conditions under which the students will learn.
And will achieve greatness.
Every movie I've ever seen, I think you're supposed to be mean to your undergrad students, and then they respect you even more.
Some people take that tack, but I don't.
Me neither.
All the movies told me so, and that's where I've learned to do everything, even my job. No, I didn't.
All right.
Explain so
So
much.
I think that's important to note. Is if you're having difficulty with your video modeling play skill because your student is repetitively pushing the buttons, take out the battery. Problem solved. So they developed these scripts that were relatively long. Like I said, there were 13 to 15 actions and vocalizations for each of the 3 scripts. And the independent variable that they were using here was just presenting that video model. It was, not too long, but long enough to have all those different vocalizations in it. They played it twice, and that was it. There was no additional prompting or reinforcement provided.
I think those videos were usually like 2 to 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
They weren't super long, but not super short.
Yeah, so you needed to have some decent attending skills, as well as the students in this study, they could engage in vocalizations and they had imitation skills as well. If you had a student who didn't have some of these skills, you could start with a much simpler video model or work on play skills in another way before approaching it using video modeling. Mm-hmm. All right, guys.
Well, Dan, were you going to talk about... I know I found this interesting, and I always kind of love these citations where they describe, here's what you should be looking for in your whatever. And I know they mentioned a Taylor article where they talked about what you should find in your peer.
Oh, yeah, I meant to mention that, and I forgot. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, so the idea that you need to have peers that are cooperative in following adult instructions. I know I've run into that situation where folks are like, I don't know why I picked this kid. He won't do anything I say. You need to have kids who are assertive in their play, so a little bossy. You need to have kids who are socially competent, which that's kind of a vague term, but kind of probably have a picture of what that kind of kid would look like. And then they also have to be able to stay interested in an activity. So if you want them to play with that airplane set, they better be able to play with that airplane set for more than 10 seconds before they get bored. So I kind of liked that list of criteria for your model peers. Just having kind of that snapshot was nice.
Yeah, I thought so too. It almost read a little bit like a dating profile.
I would definitely date this person, actually.
Right? Socially competent, able to stay interested.
Following instructions.
Yes.
Assertive. Got it.
Tell me more. I'm always interested in this activity.
Socially competent. Yeah. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is important with the peer that you choose. And if your peer doesn't seem to be compliant, well, most of the time, those peers are going to respond really well to positive adult praise. So I say you might need to go back, spend some time playing with them, develop that rapport, and then you should have them eating out of the palm of your hand.
Or put out another casting call for peers and find someone else.
So guys, are you ready to hear the dependent variables for this study?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So there were 6 different things that they were looking at here. They were scripted vocalizations, so vocalizations that were the same as or exceedingly similar to the script. Scripted play actions, which were the same as or exceedingly similar to the script. Unscripted vocalizations that were yet still related to the play. unscripted play actions that were also related to the play, cooperative play with the peer, which was defined as sharing materials or playing together, and finally, reciprocal vocal interaction chains, which involved at least 2 volleys back and forth in conversation with the peer and the student with autism. That's kind of a lot. And this is where it gets complicated. Whenever you start working on play research, you're like, oh my gosh, like play is so fun, and we're going to teach play, and it's going to be so wonderful, and we're going to save the world, and it's going to be great because it's just play, and it's so easy. And then you get to the part where you have to do measurement of play, and then you're like, oh boy, am I in deep now? Because how in the world am I going to actually define and measure all these things that I want to capture?
You'll do your 1 second video coding session.
Holy moly, I've done a lot of those. So yeah, so that is where they ended up here. Is for some of these, they recorded a number of times that they occurred, like how many vocalizations out of the total scripted vocalizations happened. That part was relatively easy, although you still have to get good IOA. And then they also measured frequency for the unscripted vocalizations and play actions. But for the last 2, cooperative play and reciprocal vocal interaction chains, they needed to do second-by-second recording.
Ugh. That's the worst.
Of the play sample, and they chose wisely to just do the first 90 seconds of the 4-minute play sample.
That's smart.
Because otherwise, this would still be being worked on. It would not have ever been published.
I remember having to restart anytime I had to do second by second with a video. I'd have to keep restarting because I would just fall asleep about halfway through and then be like, wow,
not
crap,
surprising.
Where did I end up? Oh, I gotta go find this last code.
Plus, this was on VHS, so you had to like cue it up to the exact right moment.
Oh yeah, you need special. You need special equipment. You can't just do that on a VCR.
No, you can. I did it
second by second on just a VCR.
Second by second, yeah. As long as you make sure that you hit the the profile or the menu where it says like you can see the time on the bottom.
Oh, well, we should teach everyone how to do that. They can break out their VCRs.
Yeah,
there's an apocalypse, and the only way to do research is VCR. You know, you're gonna want to remember.
That's what we're gonna be concerned about.
Yes, your number one concern.
My VHS tapes.
These kids aren't playing as well as they could.
Run to the basement.
It's always admirable to be doing research in play. I actually think that it's an incredibly important area to be doing research in, but you always end up in these predicaments where it's like, oh boy, now I need to be figuring out not only how to record play actions, but how to determine if they're actually novel, and how to decide when we are seeing reciprocal play and reciprocal conversation making, and how am I going to actually record that, and how am I going to get IOA. So hats off to you play researchers out there.
Yeah.
Because it is not easy.
No.
And they did a good job in this study. They got the IOA that they were looking for. They gave some good definitions. I know what all went into that.
When I'm talking to my thesis students and I ask them what they want to do for their thesis, if any of them ever say play, I'm like, that's noble. Do you want to graduate on time?
Right.
And then I'm like, why don't you read this article and see if you want to do this? And then they're like, they come back, they're like, no.
Why don't you read about Milton Berger's second by second recording?
Yeah. Here, it's so fun. It'll take you no time at all except for your whole life. Love, Jackie.
How about stereotypy?
Ooh,
No.
Yeah. No.
We'll do stereotypy in another episode.
Yeah, we totally will.
Okay. So I'm stepping down from talking about the dependent variable. This study was a multiple probe design across play sets for each of the peer dyads. And they initially did a baseline in which there was no prompt and no video, just the play set was provided for 4 minutes. They did not see responding in that condition for either peer.
That was so sad. They brought up that point, too, of saying, the typical peers were kids who they played and they'd seen them play with these toys and they'd seen them do all these scripts, and everybody just shut down almost when they were. I mean, not shut down, but they were not playing almost at all.
Colin played a little bit. Colin got half of the steps.
A little bit.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He played a little bit.
He played a little.
But still, the idea that you'd expect to see, maybe the child with autism would play less, but the typical peer would play a lot more, and it was almost like there was a suppression of the typical kid.
So that could
play.
either be overall reactivity to the situation, or we don't know if they attempted to play and didn't get any response from the peer with autism and then didn't try.
Or they were doing behaviors that were not the scripted behaviors. Because remember, they're only looking at 14 to 18 scripted behaviors. So they could have been doing something else that wasn't the scripted behaviors.
They could have
right?
been.
Because kids are weird.
They didn't note that, though.
Right.
They said that it seemed so odd that they didn't do anything. So to me, it's probably that they're in this different room with someone with a video camera, because typically developing kids are usually really aware of that type of
but
thing.
I'm wondering whether the fact that they brought it up and sort of the tone almost that I read that paragraph with, the sense was it was not just the reactivity, that there was something about the situation of, the peer they were with that sort of just made play less, whether it was less reinforcing or just less likely to happen for some reason. I mean, it could have been reactivity. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it read like they wanted you to know as the reader that what an odd ending to their baseline.
Yeah. Play is generally thought to be automatically reinforcing. And if you're playing in a dyad, then it's socially reinforcing as well. So if you're in a dyad with a peer who doesn't find that either automatically or socially reinforcing, then it's going to be at best one-sided play. And at worst, no play at all, because you're supposed to be playing with this peer and they're not into it.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I've been there.
So I think that's probably what happened here. It is kind of sad. But the good news is that's not where they stopped. That was the only baseline.
Yeah, they weren't.
And that was the baseline, and they somehow got that published.
Well, they did not see a lot of responding for any of the 4 children in baseline. What they did next, in, of course, a staggered fashion, was introduce the video model. And with the video model, again, they just showed the video. There was no additional prompting or reinforcement. They did note something here was that they needed to do some booster coaching for the typically developing peers because they weren't catching on.
They need to talk a lot. Was that
they
the
said,
phrase
they're
they
like,
used?
You see that person on screen? You're supposed to be that person. I did not mention that the video models were of adults.
Yeah.
So they had a boy-girl pair, and they gave a boy-girl model, except it was a man-woman. And then they had a boy-boy pair, and they had 2 male models for them. They pointed out that they didn't think that an adult model versus a child model that hadn't been shown to make a difference in past research, so they weren't too worried about that. But the typically developing kids weren't catching on. I think it was probably their first exposure to any type of video modeling, whereas the children with autism had previous exposure. So they just need to do a booster and say, you see that person on the screen? You're supposed to be them. Do what they do. Talk a lot. And after that, then they caught on and picked up on that. So during the training, they just showed the video and then said it's time to play and gave them 4 minutes to play and interact with the toys and with one another. No additional prompting or reinforcement was provided. Before moving on to training the next play set, each peer needed to meet mastery criterion for the current play set, which was basically they could have all but 2 of the vocals and the actions. It was like a varying number. It was like 15 to 17, so they needed to have 13 to 15, depending on the different model.
Cool.
Yeah. Long story short, training was successful for all of the peers. Yeah. Everyone learned through video modeling, which is pretty exciting. They also did mastery probes, in which they did not provide the video. They just provided the toys, so it was just like baseline. And results looked good in that setting as well. And then they also did a follow-up probe over time, in which they checked back in after a few weeks. And responding was a little bit more variable, but still maintained at a relatively high level.
Have you ever thought about using video modeling with your kids?
Not really, because they tend to just pick up models. When I play with them or Diana plays with them, they just tend to, pick up models or pick up some of that play or come up with their own play. So there's no
play
point.
is never a problem. I could see it being useful for something like maybe like shoe tying.
Yeah.
Where you want to be able to really study it. And if you had a video model, then you could zoom in really close or maybe show it in slow motion or be able to maybe narrate along with it while you're watching the video, all of which I think could be helpful for something that's such a minute, fine motor task, which can be hard to teach.
Cool.
I think, like you said, Diana, the instruction piece, because I know the tendency is when you're trying to get your kids to help you with something, it's like, I need you to help me with this. I'm going to tell you what to do, this thing you've never done. I want you to do it. And I sort of wish I could always have, here, I'm going to get everything ready. Watch this video on my phone 2 or 3 times, and then try to do what was there. I feel like it would be much more successful. I did that with our oldest son in batting. I found a video on how to bat, because when I tried to show him, A, I don't know how to bat, and then B, he'd just be, oh, that's not how you do it. He'd just keep doing the wrong thing, and I would just wish I had my, tag teach clicker.
I was just going to say, did you want to tag teach it?
I should have. So then I found the video was a little easier to get him to copy.
And again, I think it's part of not knowing what your student or child is attending to. And if you're just like, watch me, as you're like 10 feet away showing him how to bat, you don't know what he's looking at, and you want him to be attending to your placement of your feet, or you got to get your elbow up and all the choke up. I don't know, all those things.
Those are baseball terms, yes.
You did a great
Good
job
job
right there.
Grand slam. Whereas if it's a video, then you can be right next to him and point those things out as you're watching it. That's not what you typically do with video modeling, but I could see how that would be a good instructional tool in that sense. What I just talked about for results was only 2 of the dependent variables. It was the scripted actions and the scripted vocalizations. Those are the easiest 2 to measure. Mm-hmm. This was already not a brief report, whatever that's called, a full report, I guess.
Non-brief.
Yeah.
Semi-brief.
It was the granny panties report.
So really sexy is what you're saying.
That grill.
Nice underpants.
If that grill says nice underpants, I'm sending it back. It's not appropriate.
Oh no, he sent you the adult play school play grill.
Oh my God, I'm getting it.
That's some weird stuff right there. No, but they had all those other variables that they were looking at: unscripted actions and vocalizations, cooperative play, and the reciprocal verbal interactions. And we don't get actual graphs for those, which is, we're behavior analysts. We love graphs. We just get the mean, baseline, and follow-up data.
That was so unglamorous, though. It seemed like, I know it wasn't the main purpose of the study, but you think you'd want to say, ooh, but then look at these neat things that happened, because some of those means went up nicely.
Well, that's the thing. When I saw that there were no data, I was like, oh, because nothing happened. But that wasn't really the case. They're
hidden
actually
in a paragraph kind of near the end of the results.
Yeah, there actually were changes for all of them. So for unscripted actions and vocalizations, the mean increase following treatment for both parties, although a little bit more for Alden than for Colin. For cooperative play, the baseline levels were from 0 to 16%, and they increased up to 80% of the session for Colin and like around 70% for Alden. And then for the verbal interaction, it increased from 0 times per session to approximately 5 per session.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that those were happening, generatively. I think they were built into the script, both for cooperative play and for the reciprocal interactions. But nonetheless, those are some nice data. And it's, it wasn't nothing. It was a nice change for all of those data. I'm sure they had all those graphs and they just didn't have room, and they had to make a decision on what they were going to do. Mm. And those were sort of the collateral responses. The scripted actions and vocalizations were what were being taught, what they were looking at as far as determining mastery criterion, and what they were measuring for follow-up. So those are what got presented. But when we're talking about play skills, it's always a question, well, yeah, you taught the script, but did you get anything else?
Yeah.
And that's what you want to know, because play is such a hard thing to teach. And they actually got a little bit of something else here, but we don't know much about what we got. So I bet those data are available from the authors. What else do we want to say about this study? I liked it. I enjoyed reading it, for sure. There's always a question of what exactly is going on when you have a dyad like this, and there's a lot of things at play. Video modeling is just,
Get it? Play.
Video modeling is just a prompt. That's all that it is, and it does appear to be almost magical at times. You're like, we just showed them the video, and then they did it. Wow. So I think there's still some unpacking to do as far as exactly
a lot of unpacking.
Why does video modeling work. But in this particular case, we had the dyad. So each piece of the script was chained on to what the other party was doing. So they said it certainly could be that the typically developing kids learn the script, and then as they completed their actions or vocalizations, that served as an SD for the child with autism to complete their part, and they went back and forth in that fashion. The nice thing they mentioned here was that even if it was scripted, it still increased the time that the child with autism was engaging in play with a peer. And while that may not have been initially socially reinforcing for them, just the experience of having that type of interaction could hopefully increase the value of social interaction as a reinforcer for the child with autism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they were starting to see some really promising results there at the end. We just don't have enough data to make a firm case about whether that was increased or not.
And for the typically developing child, it also gives them rules as to, okay, what I'm doing here, right? Because sometimes it's difficult to interact with someone that's not playing like you are playing.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at from like the typically developing child side of things, it provides an opportunity and a rule on how to engage with the student that maybe you always wanted to, but you just didn't know how.
Yeah, and that can be reinforcing for that child as well, that now we have something that we can do together that I know is successful.
Yeah.
And that's the first step towards building something more.
Like a friendship.
Like a friendship.
Forever friendship.
You know,
Is that a real song or you just write that?
No, I just wrote it. I'm a singer-songwriter on the side.
I don't know if we have enough time to get that on the Christmas album.
Probably not. You know, a limitation that they list here is there was a lack of extended novel play. That's something that we can talk about more, but generally with video modeling, what you teach is what you get. And that's been the case for most of the research in video modeling. So it's not unsurprising that they didn't get a ton of novel play, but they did get what they taught. And that's a great place to start. The end.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Diana.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that look into reciprocal play skills. All right, Jackie, I'm throwing it over to you so that we can talk about how we can use video modeling and reinforcement to teach perspective-taking skills.
Cool. I like this little article that I'm going to talk about because it's using video modeling to teach perspective-taking skills. And
Woohoo!
in life, I think perspective-taking skills are fairly challenging. Even
What to teach?
Yeah, to teach.
Or to know?
do.
To teach, to know, to do for everyone.
Especially for men. Am I right, ladies?
I was not
Tell
gonna
me
say
about
that.
it.
I was not going to say that. You know, I think it's a difficult skill to kind of comprehend, and I haven't seen like really solid evidence supporting how to teach perspective-taking skills. There's a lot of different ways that people have done it.
We could do a whole episode on perspective taking.
We probably could.
I think we should.
Yeah, we probably should
But we can just...
talk about it a little bit now. But yeah, so perspective-taking is looking at understanding another person's beliefs about events that may be different from reality, and that those beliefs will guide future behavior. So things that I know about other people.
Sounds super behavior analytic.
I know, it's not really, but, you know, it came from classic psychology. But
Right, and it's called theory of mind.
Theory of mind, yeah.
It's like the TV show Lost when there's so many characters and island secrets and nobody knows who knows what.
So what Rob is referencing is the TV show Lost, which was on when?
The mid-2000s.
Yeah, it was like a while ago. But I don't remember now what I was reading, and you know what I'm talking about. But it was an article that was like, if you don't watch these popular shows, what should you say while everyone else is watching them? And for that show, all you should do is just come up and say, that island has so many secrets.
That's awesome. I never watched that show, so I guess that's something for me to say. If someone ever talks about Lost again. Yep. I did know there was a polar bear at some point.
Yep.
Yes.
So I could say that.
There was a polar bear.
Yeah, and then I just walk away like, phew, got out of that one. This has been pulled from traditional psychology, this idea of perspective taking and theory of mind. But some behavior analysts have tried to tackle perspective taking, and here's a good example.
There are roots to it that you can certainly operationally
Oh, absolutely,
define.
100%, yeah. But the classic test is called the Sally Ann test. I love that it's called that. And it's a false belief task. So the child will predict what the puppet will do after the puppet sees an item in one location. Then the puppet leaves. The experimenter switches the location of the item, so the puppet's not there.
The puppet leaves. He just gets up and walks out.
He's like, I'm out of here. Then the puppet comes back, and then the child has to answer a question about where the puppet will find the desired item. And what they should say is the original location, right? Because the puppet didn't know that it moved, even though the child knows that it moved.
The puppet doesn't know where the polar bear has gone on this secret island.
Yeah.
That island has so many secrets.
Yeah. So even though that's false, that's a false belief, right? Because the child knows where that desired item is. Yeah. They should say the original location because that's where the puppet thinks it is.
Right.
So that's
true
the
wisdom, Jackie, is knowing what you don't know.
True. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And if you'd like to see the Sally Ann test in action, please, if you have not, watch our preview episode for this full-length episode where we put one of our children
engage in puppetry
through the test.
That's awesome. And I'll do it too, and I'll probably fail. What they found is that it's really integral perspective taking for social behavior, friendships, sharing, empathy, all of that kind of stuff. So it's an important thing to learn.
Yeah. Hey, Jackie.
Yes?
This is where I'm going to put in the first secret code word.
Oh!
Surprise! Did you know that from your perspective taking?
I did not.
So in any case, if you are listening to our show and would like to apply for continuing education credits, guess what? You can. But you'll need to know 2 secret code words, of which the first is coming now. And it is Langdon Alger.
What?
What the heck is that?
I thought of it while we were talking about the last article and names, and I thought of a TV episode, and it made me laugh, so I wanted it to be a secret
What are you
code.
even referencing?
Oh, well, that's like, if someone can name, my 2 code words are going to come from, it's television, and it ain't lost. If you can figure out where they came from, then you'll get a special prize, which will probably be, I'll forget to give you a special prize, but maybe we'll remember. Langdon Alger.
Can you spell that?
Yes, I can spell that, Jackie. It's Langdon, and you can put a space, but you don't have to put a space. Alger. Langdon Alger.
Everyone hates you in the car right now because this is like one of the
seriously.
ones you cannot remember. You're like, oh man, when am I going to hit a stop sign?
We can
Don't
also
hit a stop sign, guys. Not good.
We can also use these code words to test out whether people listen to episodes or apply for C's with episodes with terrible code words.
It's awesome. They're like, screw this.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait till they say icicle again.
And every code word is icicle.
That's awesome. Yeah, so behavior analytically, when you're thinking about perspective taking, you're talking about observing the behavior of another individual in a given situation and predicting that individual's subsequent behavior or responding in accordance with the private thoughts or emotions of that other individual. So that's as behavior analytic as we're going to get here.
Yeah.
Here on this show.
You can handle it.
Yeah. And if you've ever worked with a young child, or a child with a developmental disability, you know that perspective taking is not usually present.
Yeah, this, in particular, the Sally Ann test, for typically developing kids, you usually see them being able to properly answer the test around 4 or 5.
Yeah, so too bad we don't have any 3-year-olds.
Right, so prior to that, you can't generally take that type of perspective of someone else.
Right.
You're very self-centric.
I wonder if, like, at 2, you started teaching that task, if you would see empathetic responding generalize.
I do not know. You can teach it at an earlier age.
Right, but I wonder.
I don't know if you necessarily see it generalized to other scenarios.
I remember I had an undergraduate professor. We were talking about the Tower of Hanoi, which is sort of the problem-solving task that you sort of just naturally learn how to do. And he trained his daughter to do it, so she was doing it when she was 3, and I think you're supposed to be 6 or 7 before you do that. But then when she was older, she never understood how to do the Tower of Hanoi. It was just motor memory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I wonder.
she went on a crime spree. It was really terrible. No, I don't. I think she was fine. She just could never figure out the Tower of Hanoi without just, like, if someone stopped her, she couldn't do it. Because she just had memorized what to do.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's funny. Okay.
Right. So, behavior is behavior, and you can teach behavior.
Right. But can we teach responding to novel situations? That's
right. Exactly. So there's a lot of problem solving and critical thinking that are related to perspective taking.
Oh, yeah.
That
Kool-Aid Man.
may be more challenging.
Famous quote, Kool-Aid Man.
That's awesome.
I'm glad that you credited him there because we wouldn't want to be copyright infringing on Kool-Aid Man.
And I've run through the wall. I love Kool-Aid Man. All right, they had 3 boys ranging in age from 7 to 13, years of age, all had a diagnosis of an autism spectrum disorder, and they did not engage in the Sally Ann task when tested. So they were seen 2 or 3 times weekly. They administered the Sally Ann task that we just talked about with the puppets in the pre-test and the post-test. So the Sally Ann task was not trained.
Okay.
So this was a task we were just assessing perspective-taking skills for. They did have tasks that they did train using video modeling and reinforcement, though. And one was the Smarties task, but they use M&Ms because we live in the United States.
Right.
And the Smarties in England are actually M&Ms.
Right, they're not like Sweet Tarts.
Right.
They're M&Ms. Did you guys know that they changed the Cadbury, the American Cadbury chocolate?
Yes, you told me.
You didn't tell me.
Yeah, they did. It's not the same anymore.
Oh, I'll go and try it out. And I'll call
It's
it
not
an
as good.
experiment. I'll buy
But
all
it's
the
not as
chocolate.
good. It's not as good as it used to be, and it's not as good as UK Cadbury.
That you said, or that is the
They actually did change
opinion
it.
online.
Oh, crazy.
That it's not as good, or that it's changed?
Have you had it since it changed?
Yeah,
When did you have that?
when I ate it at
The-
work.
Okay.
The secrets of married
When
life.
I went to CVS and got myself some.
I can just never find those, but like, there's only one place in town that I know sells them. Nowhere else sells them, so it just seems like one of those things that how would you ever be able to get them unless I go to the secret
have
store?
my ways.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's like super disappointing. It's like chalky and brittle now, and it's just not even like it's not even worth it anymore.
Okay, well.
And one of the pleasures in my life is gone.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, what we can do is do this M&M task for you, because what will happen is there's a M&M box, and when you open the M&M box, there's really a pencil inside.
Even more disappointing.
So then you open the box up, you see that there's a pencil inside rather than candy, and then you ask the participant, what if someone random came in, what would they say is in the box? Is it candy or is it a pencil? And the correct answer should be candy, right? So the second task that they taught using video modeling and reinforcement was a hide and seek task. So they had 2 experimenters and the child, and they saw a puppet leave footprints to a treasure
Which
chest.
is funny because puppets don't have feet.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Man, talk about looking for the wrong stimuli for generalization.
That's great,
That's kind of
actually.
the theme of our episode.
Yeah, so the puppets, I think the footprints were already there.
Yeah.
And the puppets would walk across the fake footprints to the treasure chest. And there's 2 treasure chests, one marked 1, one marked 2. And then the footprints were erased and the second experimenter left the room before the puppet walked again, leaving the footprints. So then the puppet moved the treasure to a nearby box labeled 2, and then the second experimenter returned, and the child asked to predict where the second experimenter would look for the treasure. So the correct answer was 1 because the treasure was in 2, but the second experimenter didn't know that.
Right.
Which seems crazy. This seems like a hard one for some reason, but it's okay. I think the footprints
It's
thing...
not real. Yeah, I've seen it done. It's not
Yeah.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
It just seems confusing.
Oh, yeah.
Like reading it. Yeah.
But then what is cool is that they had different variations for each of these tasks. So they had 3 variations for the hide and seek task and 5 variations for the M&M task.
Yeah.
So they like really rocked it. Variant 1 had footprints leading to a red cup with the coins, and the coins moved to a white cup. Variant 2 had footprints leading to a chest with the coins moving into the experimenter's pocket. Clever! I like that one. And variant 3 had the footprints leading to chest 2, and then the coins are moved to chest 1, so that one wasn't as fun. And the 5 variations of the M&M task were pennies in a candy box, crayons in the box, a pencil in a Cheerios canister, pencil in a cereal box,
This is
and
wacky.
a toy in the cereal box, which is not uncommon for all the cereal that I eat.
Yeah. That one can happen.
So they used a multiple baseline design across the tasks of the M&M and hide and seek. And the pretest and post-test and baseline, there was no feedback on the Sally Ann task. So they did something a little bit different from what MacDonald and colleagues did for their video modeling. So prior to testing, they had the child view the video of the adult correctly completing the task. And then the video zoomed in and out on the relevant cues, such as the footprints or the strategy. So he would say, like, "Ooh, look, he thinks it's here because he can see the footprints." And the experimenter then paused the video. So this is what's different than the MacDonald and colleagues, because they paused the video and they had the child respond to perspective-taking questions.
Oh, okay.
So here's where you could provide reinforcement.
Yeah.
So here, if the child got the question correct, they earned praise, edibles, or stickers. I love that kids love stickers. And if they got the answer incorrect, then they replayed the video until they got it correct.
Okay, so some feedback.
There was some
and
feedback.
Reinforcement.
Yeah, within the video modeling session itself. They kept doing these sessions over and over and over again until 3 consecutive correct responses to the video occurred.
Okay.
They had 3 to 8 modeling sessions on average. And then once the training session was mastered, so they passed, because they have to pass. It's a fail or a pass. It's not like a kind of.
No, it's
right?
a yes-no thing, yeah.
It's a yes-no thing. Then they assessed all of the exemplars for that task.
Gotcha.
So what they said was that it should be noted that a child could consistently pass in the training session and then fail in testing. So they could pass that one, the one that they trained, and then fail all the other variants.
Yeah.
Which happens, right? And
Which
then
would not indicate that you've developed some additional perspective-taking skills, because you should have generalization across the different
and you didn't.
variants.
Yeah, so
yeah.
And then they did a follow-up session, which is kind of fun. So the graphs are really neat, because along the x-axis you have sessions, and along the y-axis you just have fail and pass. So fail is at the bottom.
It is binary.
Yeah, pass is at the top, nothing in between, and then they had,
How was their IOA?
100%.
Okay.
So IOA was 100%.
Man, that was some drama.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, Becky. Yeah, they got 100%, which I'm proud of them, because if they had less than that, that would be super sad. They had, sessions along the x-axis, pass and fail along the y-axis, and then one thing I like is that for each participant, either the hide and seek task or the M&M task went first, so it varied across participants. So it wasn't like always the M&M task first. But what they found is in baseline, everyone failed.
Hence their inclusion in the study.
Right. Actually, there was one participant, Bobby, in one session who passed the M&M task one time.
Yeah.
And then,
there's one or two. There's only 2 answers.
Right.
So.
And then went back to failing.
Okay.
For 5 sessions. So he didn't have that. And they also did assessments of some of the variants in baseline, and they failed those too.
Gotcha.
So that's nice. So video modeling and reinforcement wasn't initially successful. For Timmy in the M&M task, he passed on the 3rd session, whereas for Bobby it was the 4th session, and then for David it was also, I think, the 5th session. So there was some time that you needed some practice with this. But what's cool about Timmy is that once he acquired the skill, once he passed video modeling and the testing, he actually acquired the skill in all of the variations, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So he could do...
That's great. He really got it.
He really rocked it.
Yeah.
And then you saw with the M&M task as well as with the hide and seek task.
All
with
right.
Bobby's world. Once he acquired the skill in the hide and seek task, all of the variations were acquired, and the M&M task was also acquired. And I love it, love it when they do follow up, and on the graph they make it FU. It just makes me giggle.
Right. FU.
FU.
My alma mater. Furman University.
Pass. So even in that 1 month follow up, we saw skills demonstrated for both David and for Bobby. So that's kind of neat. All the children consistently failed the task in the beginning, but they eventually mastered the tasks once they had acquired the vocal and motor responses. And all of the participants failed the Sally-Ann pretest, and 2 of the participants passed the test after intervention. So that's kind of nice. Not too bad.
3.
Yeah. Huh. So it kind of suggests limited generality.
Yeah. I mean, but honestly, the hide and seek task was not really that different
Right.
from the Sally Ann task. It just sort of added the footprint component. But it was still a puppet moving something from one box to another.
Right.
So, to me, that is something to consider
Yeah.
as well. But it's still exciting that they got generalization for 2 out of 3
Yeah.
to a different task.
Right.
'Cause that was clearly difficult for this group, was the generalization piece.
Right. And what they did find is another study, Knoll and Charman, in 2000, demonstrated the same pattern with typically developing 3-year-olds.
Cool.
So it wasn't unique to children with autism.
Yeah.
They didn't really, in this article, address how this happened or why this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's no explanation
No.
or underlying principle. So we can't say that this article's conceptually systematic in a way,
Right.
when we're looking back, because I can't really tie any foundation or principle of behavior analysis to this. But I think we should look into that on video modeling and why it works and how it works, and that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Rob.
Taking a walk outside of the normal video model play social skill scene.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I liked both of these articles because they didn't take it easy, They tackled 2 pretty challenging behaviors to teach
Right.
using video modeling. So reciprocal peer play, which that ain't easy,
Ugh.
and perspective taking, which is really not easy to teach, and they were successful with the video model for both. So it's pretty cool.
It's nice.
All right. Well, I think it's time to get all aboard on the trip to Dissemination Station.
It's a quiet one today.
It's okay.
It's energy efficient.
It's a new train, yeah.
It's an electric train.
It's a one of those maglev trains.
It's an electric slide train. Everybody's line dancing on it.
What do you think these 2 articles kind of tell us generally about video modeling? Anything big take-home points that you have brewing up in the old noggins?
One thing I like about it is that based on the articles that we chose, we can show how broad video modeling can be applied to different skill sets. So it's not just play, even though that's where we hear about it a bunch. You can use it creatively across a wide variety of skills and learners. So that's something that might be useful later on, is if you don't know how you're going to teach a skill, maybe consider video modeling as one of the ways you can prompt independent responding without having, a teacher present or consistent. Help me out.
You don't have to worry about the variance that you might
Yes,
see in an
thank
in
you.
vivo model,
Right.
because it's pre-recorded.
Yeah.
So you get the same one every time. It can also be great for students who learn well through modeling and may not prefer manual guidance as their prompting method.
Right.
So being able to take a video and use that as your model can be a great resource. Now, there are, like we said, some prerequisite skills that are needed in order to really use a video model as a prompt. But those are things that we work on right out of the gate with children who have disabilities and learning difficulties. So if you're working towards using video modeling, then you want to make sure that you are addressing those early skills, like being able to sit and attend to a video, working on imitation skills as well as delayed imitation. Yeah. Anything else in that list of video modeling prerequisites?
Generalized imitation.
Generalized imitation. Okay, yeah.
All right.
So those are all things that we do start working on with kids right away. And, everyone is an individualized learner. So we'll talk about this someday too, I'm sure, working on their learner profile and what exactly are the best prompts to use with a child. But it's never too early to explore how kids might respond to using a model prompt, even if they are very young.
Yeah.
Because for some kids, they pick up on it right away and it just seems to click with them. And if that's the case, then using a video model might be great, not just for play skills, but for self-help skills, for going out in the community, for working on social interactions or conversation skills. It can be a really great resource and tool for teachers.
It seems also easier teacher resource wise. I mean, you have to make the model, you have to make the video, but once you make the video, it's there and you can use it. So it's at your disposal. So a teacher could theoretically make a lot of videos, in August and September, have those videos at her disposal so she can be teaching a student one skill while they're engaged in video modeling and still be working with another student. So
Yeah.
it's something that you might be able to use. Also, just thinking about it subjectively, there's no data to back this up. Just pulling it out there. That it seems less socially stigmatizing if you're going to be using it in a public school forum, because kids frequently are looking at their iPhones, looking at their computers, probably not watching TV, but who's got like a real TV that you can like bring in and out nowadays?
Not too much.
Right?
Like
yeah.
the rolly cart TV thing.
The people don't really use those anymore, but like they will use their phone, so you could program a video model on an iPhone or like an iPad mini, and then you're not having to like whisper in their ear or like physically guide the student, where other students may look at that as more intrusive.
Yeah. You also don't have to worry about the treatment integrity on the part of the teacher who is present with the child, because there's no prompting or reinforcement given. All they need to do is set up the materials correctly and play the video.
Did they play the video? Yes or no? 100%.
Yeah. And the other great thing about video modeling that we haven't talked about is that 99% of the time, the kids love watching the videos. Right? Everyone loves videos, and it's a great. Kids will trade in for video modeling.
I actually love that. I had a student once who'd be like, I want to watch. I can't remember what the video was, but I think it was like hand washing, and he would watch it and at his desk and like do the steps without the water and be like, now I'm looking at my hands.
Oh, yeah.
It was so cute.
It's like extra practice there.
Yeah. I was like, they're like, he wants to earn that. And I was like, if it's going to increase responding for whatever he's doing, then it serves as a reinforcer. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I want to play a game real quick.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
It's called Make Me a Research Study. So I mentioned earlier in the episode about the kind of the social skills video modeling, so the Model Me Kids type videos where there is that watch the video, pause, I'm laying out the skills you need to follow, and then watch the video again, and there's usually multiple choice question. And we sort of talked about how much that's sort of the classic video modeling versus just behavioral skills training with a video. Now, Diana, you were mentioning one of the big positives, and Jackie, you as well, with video modeling is just, here, watch this video. You just film somebody doing something, you watch it twice, and then let the kid watch it and say, oh. One of the issues that I would see is that if you just want to make videos, it's easier to do now more than ever, because you just get out your phone and take a video of something. But if there's a superiority to say and then you add all these extra components to it, it's not as easy as it had been, because to make that's software. That's not something that just anyone could make. So I want to compare I filmed something versus I filmed it and I had all the instructions and I had all these extra components to the video. I want to compare the two to see, is there a value in having all of those extra components, or not really, and it's just kind of a waste of time and money.
So you could do one of two things. You could do component analysis of all of your skills. You could add in or delete. I think I would recommend doing deleting there, because you have this whole thing that works. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked me the question, right? So if you have video modeling plus reinforcement plus external prompting plus something, right? You have all that in and it's working. Then you would just systematically take a piece out and see if that piece alone or that piece without being in the component would be sufficient or necessary. So that's what I would recommend doing, and then take pieces out. Like, can we do it with prompting alone? Can we do this whole treatment package without prompting? Right. And see if it's either sufficient or necessary. Or
hold on, would it be the same skill, different students? Would it be different but similar skills, same student?
You'd probably have to use the same student because it's idiosyncratic, and you'd probably have to use similar but different enough skills, right? Maybe same difficulty level, same type of response, right? Because you can't...
Yeah, because we're talking about skill acquisition here. So once it's learned with the treatment package...
You can't really use it.
Yeah, you can't unlearn it.
Yeah.
Oh, the unlearning of things. You can't unlearn things. But yeah, so it would have to be similar...
I think I've unlearned how to ride a bike.
Oh, I have unlearned so many things. Sleeping.
I tried to do a somersault. That I think I unlearned that.
I did a cartwheel the other day. It was a bad idea, but... I did it. It wasn't, my form wasn't great, but yeah, I tried.
Got the job done.
Kind of. Somebody dared me, and I was like, I can do that. Probably a bad idea.
Might have been a bad idea.
Yeah, but
it's okay. You're still standing.
I'm still standing. But yeah, so you could do a component analysis.
We're just joking, guys, though. Once you've learned something.
Yeah.
It's not unlearned.
Yeah. we're just being silly. Or you could do a parametric analysis where you manipulate the levels of the IV and see how that would work with this type of component treatment package. So are you giving too many prompts, too few prompts? You could vary the schedule of reinforcement that you're looking at. You could vary the number of times that you watch the video. So that would all be an example of a good parametric analysis that you could do with your treatment package.
Okay.
Bam!
Do you have any thoughts on that as
I
well?
think Jackie pretty much covered it there.
Okay, Jackie, you win. Hooray!
For the one time.
And your prize is a second secret code word. And the second one is also a name. It's an easier name, though. It's Frank Grimes. Frank is Frank. And then space, no space, doesn't matter. Grimes, Grimes.
These characters sound like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but I don't think that's right.
No. Did you actually know? Fun fact. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was a big famous movie, actually was originally a made-for-TV movie for the Disney Channel because they needed stuff on cable. Back in the day when there wasn't actually a lot on TV, they needed a just whatever on cable. And I feel like Pee Wee Herman did the voice of Roger Rabbit. And it looks terrible. You can't really find it anymore. Now Jackie's going to look it up. Yes.
I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
So there was a TV movie version of it that everyone has forgotten.
Wow.
Because it's probably not good.
Matt told me Matt is my husband. I am married. I just told you all a new secret
Sorry,
about myself.
gents.
He told me that there was a made-for-TV movie on Star Wars that is like forgotten, and it played once, and it got such horrible reviews that they took it off.
The Star Wars Holiday Special?
Yes.
Yes.
And Matt said that. And
It's bad. I had a bootleg VHS copy
well, you only
of
can
it.
get a bootleg version, I guess, because they don't sell it. And
It's
that
on
is
YouTube. You can find it on YouTube these days.
well,
but
yeah, these days, but before, and that's how they started the licensing of Star Wars.
No, they didn't start licensing
Oh.
Star Wars till later on. I mean, they licensed the toys. That was like the big thing. Yeah. Oh, the Star Wars Holiday Special is terrible. It stars B. Arthur from the Golden Girls.
And then I asked, I was like,
As Chewie.
No.
She's in it. She's like the narrator.
She
right?
sings a song. She's in a bar and she sings a song. Jefferson Starship is in it.
Yeah.
I think Dionne Warwick maybe. But the whole first 30 minutes is Chewbacca's family, who they don't exist anymore. They don't count now that Disney owns Star Wars. But he has a creepy grandfather. He has a wife and he has a son named Lumpy. And they just talk in Wookie for like 30 minutes straight. It's just these Wookiees either talking to themselves or watching old 70s comedy acts doing bits. It's really...
That's bizarre.
It's rough. It is rough.
I don't remember why we were talking about that, but I just wanted to bring it up because...
You just wanted to tell everyone you had a husband and you needed an interesting
Right?
anecdote.
Oh yeah, guys, I have a
I
husband.
don't know. Yeah.
He lives in Canada. He's really great.
I made him up. Well,
You haven't met him.
I was feeling left out because I mean, like, clearly everyone knows you are married because you have the same last name.
Or
your
am
brother,
I?
or your brother and sister. But
Ew.
Gross.
And married.
so I just needed to like stake my claim in the world. You don't have to be married.
So everybody, please stop sending in CE requests and Jackie dating requests.
That would be.
We
funny.
cannot process those. Well, anyway, we've gone on for a long time, and I think we had about 15 minutes of good content. So, no,
No, this was good.
I enjoyed the conversation. It was a very tangent heavy episode.
It was.
But when you talk about video modeling, I think it's one of those kind of fun topics that's just very enjoyable, and it's a lot about play and these little fun skills. I think it's hard not to get a little extra silly with them.
Yeah, it is. It is a fun topic. Like I said, I think it is important to note that when you are doing video modeling, you really do get what you train. Mm-hmm. So while we do see it a lot in the play literature, there is really still really limited evidence out there right now that using a video model to teach play skill is going to produce any type of novel or generative play. You mostly get what you train. And I think that there can be a danger there in that if you're working with a student who is great at memorization and great at doing exactly what you tell them to, they can learn how to play with any toy, but they're only going to learn that script. And you can run into trouble with students who might have difficulty in deviation from like things, mm-hmm. or like difficulty with variation from
Rigid
rigidity.
behavior.
That's the word. Where you may teach the script and it's great, and now they play with the fire station, but if you make any attempt to change that or play with them in another way, that you end up getting problem behavior. And that doesn't end up benefiting them in the long run. You know, they're not going to be able to then sit down and play with that toy with the peer or, you know, make variations on their play. So I think you have to be careful in how you use video modeling and what type of student you're using it for and what your end goal really is for them.
I agree.
So would you say that if you had a student who, say, had very limited verbal behavior, but good imitative behavior, that if you were developing an IEP or just, you know, generally plan for further treatment or training, video modeling of play skills might not be a worthwhile task because it's not necessarily going to allow them to develop real cooperative play with peers?
I usually in IEPs don't specify the teaching procedure that I'm going to use.
No, but in terms of, I guess in terms of play skills. No, I get what you mean, Jackie. So not so much video modeling as the skill of that level of advanced play. So imaginary play with figures or role play with, you know, the barbecue set or the grill set. So similar to our first study. Is that a good target at that point? Because you have a student who doesn't have possibly the prerequisite verbal behavior to then either generate novel statements or to engage, you know, meaningfully with a peer outside of, say, the reciprocal video model that they were able to master.
I don't think video modeling has to be limited to peer play at all. It is more easily lends itself, I think, to just teaching a solitary play sequence. So I wouldn't have a problem with working on it with the student that you just described.
Yeah. I think it would really depend on the student, too.
Definitely.
And what they don't also have, right?
What I tend to do is encourage my teachers to, if they're working on a video model, go through the whole thing, and then afterwards also just play with them with the toy, so that they're learning that, oh, I'm not just going to do this exact script. Sometimes my teacher's going to come over and she's going to ask me to do something else, or she's going to model something else for me as well, so that hopefully we're preventing getting stuck in one particular script. Yeah.
As a side note, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? The voice of Roger Rabbit was Charles Flesher, so we don't get an errata. It wasn't Pee Wee Herman.
No, the TV movie. I think it was he either was the voice of, or who was in. Oh, he was the Bob Hoskins.
Okay,
character,
just wanted to make sure.
Detective. No,
because people will know that.
You know, Jackie, we all know that Roger Rabbit voiced by Charles Fleischer. Everybody knows that.
I didn't know it.
I don't know.
Well, now you do.
Okay.
So
who's Jessica Rabbit?
Kathleen Turner.
Oh, okay.
Boom. What? Ask me another one.
I don't got another one. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Paul Rubens, known as Pee Wee Herman, plays Roger Rabbit in the early unmade version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
What?
In 1983.
Thank God we know that now.
Yay. Yeah. Well, I hope you've all learned something about Roger Rabbit this week. Dino, just quick follow-up to what you were saying. One of the reasons I sort of asked that original question was I feel that there is so much research about video modeling now, but there's oftentimes a disconnect, especially for, say, practitioners who aren't behavior analysts or who don't necessarily read the primary source material on research with video modeling, of, since you can do this skill, since it often is, you know, quote unquote easy to teach with video modeling because it's just, here, watch this here video, and then, oh wow, you've learned to imitate these skills. There isn't always that thought process of, should this be taught? Not so much that it could be taught, but is this a good use of the student's time? Or is this the best target to do next? Or because we've taught play, now they'll go play with other kids. There's sort of that sense of, great, now that they have these 5 scripts, they can play with the plane and they can play with the grill. Now just sort of place them with other students and watch magic happen. And that, you know,
I don't think that's going to make magic happen.
The case. Yeah.
There's probably a lot of other training that would need to happen to get any type of peer play if you're just teaching a solitary video model. And that's not to say, I'm not trying to say that I don't think that this can be beneficial, because I really do think that it can. It can be a great way. You know, if you have a student who's never seen a T-set before and has no current actions that go with a T-set, then by all means, you could certainly teach a script related to the T-set and sort of hit all the highlights. Like, yeah, usually when you play with a tea set, you pour the tea, you pretend to put in sugar, you stir it, and you take a drink and you say, "Ooh, that's hot," and you blow on it.
Well, it depends on
right?
how you take your pretend tea. I mean, some people
That's
might put in
true.
cream.
I would definitely put in cream.
I would too, unless it's a fruit tea. You cannot add milk or cream to fruit tea. You guys know that, right?
So I want a replication. I want to see some sort of looped script video with various tea set changes. I want to see how well that generalizes to tea set. Everybody out there, make that research for me. Go. But it's copyright me, so put me as
What,
first
you mean
author.
you tell the kid, "Oh no, this is a raspberry tea," and you see if they put in cream?
We have a video where sometimes it's a raspberry or an herbal tea, and they say, "Oh, this isn't going to give me that caffeine kick I need." And other times they have milk but not sugar. Sometimes they have Splenda, not real sugar.
Okay.
So many varieties.
We're tangenting right
I'm sorry,
now.
we're tangenting. But anyway, make that research happen, please, and send me a picture. But it's copyright me still, because I said it on the radio.
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
I don't remember my point.
It's a good video modeling is worthwhile, even though it may not be magical the way I think there are practitioners who
Yes,
sort
because
of
if you
want it
didn't
to
have
be.
any skills before, and now you've done a video model, and you know what to do with this toy now, then that's definitely beneficial. And usually, kids enjoy it. It's fun. It didn't require a lot of additional prompting, other than the video, which is a prompt. Don't be confused. And it didn't require any additional reinforcement, other than presumably, we still don't know, the reinforcement accompanying engaging with the toy, which is kind of nice that those seem to be built in. And then at least you know some things to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Diana. Thanks, Jackie, for talking video modeling
Thanks, Rob.
and other random movie factoids
Yeah, today was a fun one
with us today.
for us.
I think we're punchy. We're getting punchy.
Yeah, it's late.
'Tis the season of punchiness. Well, in addition to my fabulous co-hosts, thank you all for listening. If you made it this far into the episode, it was chock full of hilarity, I assure you. Or I believe so.
Chock-a-block.
Chock-a-block. If you enjoyed our show, please feel free to go on to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. We would really appreciate that because it helps get the word out that there are behavior analytic podcasts out there. You can also check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/ABA Inside Track. We're on Twitter at ABA Inside Track. And if you have any corrections for this episode or would just like to contact us to tell us any interesting factoids yourself, we're at abainsidetrack@gmail.com. Well, again, Diana and Jackie, thanks so much for being here this week. It was great talking to you. For everyone else, we'll be back next week with a preview episode and then another full-length, exciting episode. But until then, keep responding. Bye.
Bye.
I'm a grill.